it's our members that make good things happen, and as we say, point out in this brochure, the Purple Line is one of the good things that has happened because of our members, literally. We're looking forward to it. Let me make a few announcements of upcoming events. First of all, two things happening this Saturday morning. In Silver Spring, there will be the annual Thanksgiving parade where ACT has had a contingent marching for quite a few years in our usual plastic Purple Line train.
You need to come to it. So that's good.
Yeah. And we could use some more people joining us. You assemble at 10 o'clock at, where is it, Kathy?
So our unit is B51, and it's the garage that's directly across the street here on the second floor.
The Ellsworth Garage?
Yes, Ellsworth Garage. Go to the second floor. We're unit B51, and if you can come by 9:30, the parade steps off at 10, and we should be in the first half hour or so. We're just at. We have purple items for you to wear and purple swag to give out to the audience, and then yeah, you can be part of the Purple Line costume as well if you choose.
Okay.
You're among the first out?
We're a B unit and A goes first, so hopefully we're in the first half hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Then you get to watch the whole rest of the parade behind you.
It's a lot of fun.
Let me just update people on a little bit of news on issues of importance. One is the toll lanes on I-270 and the Beltway. The window for getting a contract signed before Governor Hogan leaves office and getting it approved by the Board of Public Works, which is necessary, is rapidly closing. I won't go through all the details, but they would have to rush it through in a manner that would be unusual for even a routine, cutting down, mowing the grass along the side of the highway contract at this point to put it through. And Governor Moore has, taken a pretty clear stance that he does not support. Governor-elect Moore has taken a pretty clear stance that he does not support the project in its current form. I'm sure there will be a lot of lobbying at him from all sides, but that is his position. And frankly, the first appointments announced by his administration were promising from our point of view. Eric Lutke, the new legislative relations manager, I'm sure you'll have to have some interactions with him. Is that fair?
Yep.
Has been a long-standing friend of transit. Amanda LaForge, who is the governor's chief counsel, was a supporter of the Purple Line, despite living in Chevy Chase zip code when it was most controversial in the early 2000s. So we are, cautiously optimistic that Governor Moore has taken a very strong position that we need to have more support for transit than there was under the last governor. But it will continue to be a fight, and we need your membership if you're not a member.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Has NDOT ever considered double decking the Beltway as a
They
way of
looked at
increasing
that.
capacity?
yes, they looked at that in the last go-round of looking at widening the Beltway. Because at that point, they said it's not practical to widen it through the park, you know, along Rock Creek, through Chevy Chase and Silver Spring. And so they said if you want to add 4 lanes, double decking is the only workable solution. But that would require ramps going 80 feet into the air.
Well, yeah, there's some drawbacks, no question, but
Yeah,
at the same time, you avoid widening it, and it's the question of what, assuming double decking is practical, what's the priority?
Well, what they concluded was that it was not practical, that it was, too expensive. And they kind of decided that they didn't like that answer when they came back in the current study. And they never, they were talking about it at grade this time. But it was, frankly, it's a good question, and the answers are, well, the clear answer is that there is no perfect or even very good alternative. And I'll leave it at that for here. With that, I would like to introduce our speakers. We're very pleased to have, coming out in this awful weather, Alison Davis from WMATA and
Also from WMATA.
yes, to talk to us about the WMATA bus restructuring study. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Can they hear me on the? All right. Great. Thank you. I'm glad to see so many people also braved the less than awesome weather right now. So yes, I'm Alison Davis. I'm the Vice President of Planning. And so that's medium, long-range planning, strategy, ridership. And then my colleague, Rafa Chowdhury, is here to talk about bus priority and some of the work that she and her team are doing in the county. So without further ado, I'm just going to take you through. We've got a couple of slides, so I'll just ask we hold questions till the end, and then we'll get through. We'll have plenty of time for questions. We don't have too many slides. Well, welcome. Come sit down. So one of the first things that we talk about when we're talking about better bus and like redesigning the network and stuff is really kind of getting everyone on the same page of why bus is so important to the region, right? It has been one of the more less loved modes of transportation, I would say, in this region, in pretty much every region in America. But it's really important to think through how much it's needed for many of the people to access access opportunities, drives economic opportunity. Obviously, we saw during the pandemic how many people continued to ride the bus, and they were the people who could not work from home and were able, they kept the region running when many of us were working from home, right? So there's just a lot there that kind of brings bus to the forefront. So that's one of the regions that Metro has really doubled down on moving forward on bus. So another part of thinking of why we're doing this, right? So I was listening to the Silver Line launch today, right? And so obviously, yes, it's about access to opportunity. It's like at a macro level, like all of these great things, Silver Line, access to the airport, buses, access to schools and whatnot, but it's really thinking about exactly who is riding the bus. And thinking about those are the people who are 10 times more likely than the region average to be low income. And by low income, I mean living in households at under $30,000 a year, which is significantly low, are 5 times more likely to not have a car. And so this is really the family car for a lot of people. It's the person working 2 jobs who, needs the bus to get to those places. It's the immigrant who is, using the bus to get to, English as a second language school and, really trying to get a foothold in the region. So it's really thinking about who's on board and why it's so important, why the bus is so important. So one of the things we've known, we have surveyed the public, right? I'm sure many of you have responded to our surveys over time. And one of the things that's really clear is the things when we ask what customers' priorities are and whether they're, frequent bus riders every day, whether they, ride a couple times a month, whether maybe they're interested in riding, a couple times a year, like bar none, demographics, every level of income and every level of frequency of ridership, the 3 priorities are frequency, reliability, and connectivity, right? Like people talk about Wi-Fi on buses, that's great, but people want frequency, they want reliability, and they want connectivity. And so as we think about, redesigning the bus network, those are the things that are really, really important as to how we think about what that network should be doing and what the bus should be doing to serve the region. So we launched earlier back in September. I was going to say last month, but now it's November. So we launched a Better Bus initiative, and it's really looking across the board at all the different things that we're moving forward on for bus. So it's the network redesign, which I'm going to talk about. It's the priority lanes and signals. That's what Rocket's going to talk about. We are moving forward on zero emissions vehicles. We're modernizing our facilities. So there's a lot. There's improving customer information because that is always first and foremost with people. So there's a lot of work happening, and it's a way to think about the umbrella of all the efforts that are happening. So network redesign, right? So what's the need for that bus network? So it's been 50 routes, car routes back in the day, right? So there hasn't been looking comprehensively across all that is operated. Is that really where we need to be operating? Are there new places that we need to connect? Should we be having higher frequency on routes that we don't have higher frequency on now? Spanish service, should we operate later, longer on weekends? Like, what are the travel patterns that are happening now to really make sure that we're hitting those, right? So that's really keeping up with the changing region, and really making sure, again, going back to equity, that when people want to ride or choosing to ride the bus, that's when we're serving them, right? Because a lot of our bus riders are not the 9-to-5 commuters, right? So that peak period that we think about on rail, that we think about on the highways, right? That is not necessarily what bus looks like. So a lot of that is going into redefining the bus network. So coming out of this, right, we started over the summer, and we just wrapped up our first, this is kind of coming to the end of our first round of public outreach. But at the end of the day, about a year from now, we are looking to have a new network. So that would build into our 2025 budget, right? So that is that new network and service plan. That is something we want to implement in 2025. And so that's somewhat resource constrained, right? I mean, it's not like we're going to suddenly buy a whole new slew of buses or like build another bus garage in the next year. Like, we are somewhat constrained by that for that network. But we're also thinking aspirationally. So what is that future network that we need to get to really push, move the needle on climate change, really connect people in a way that makes bus really the mode of choice on the region's road. So that's kind of how we're thinking about the two. There's something to be implemented in that first year after we're done. So that's about a year and a half from now. And then thinking about kind of a couple of years out, if there is additional resources, if there is, additional opportunity. So a lot of people, we are not the only bus provider here, right? Obviously, we're in Montgomery County. We've got Ride On, right? The DC has Circulator, ART, or Arlington County has ART. You name it, all the local jurisdictions have bus providers, right? So we are co-planning, in Prince George's County, we are co-planning the bus and Metrobus at the same time. And then here in Montgomery County, we are partnered, as I think many of you know, Montgomery County is doing a similar level of effort, and they operate probably 2/3 of the bus service in the region. So we said, hey, we will partner with you in your study, right? So because they are kind of leading it as the larger provider in the region, in the county. So we're working hand in hand with them, and then we are doing the redesign for DC, for Prince George's County, and the Northern Virginia jurisdictions as well. So we are also obviously out engaging customers like yourselves. And so we, as I said, we just kind of finished a online survey. It closed last week. And hopefully many of you saw the information through either social media posts, email blasts that had gone out, that sort of thing. But we've got a web page, which is WMATA.com/betterbus. And then we've got take ones. We've been in rail stations, bus stations, on the buses themselves. We've been really trying to get the word out there that it exists. And we've also got an e-newsletter that we won't spam you, but comes out about once a month. And I'll provide that information on how to get on the email list for the newsletter. So a lot of that is out there. All of it is being translated into Spanish, and then certain things are also being translated into other languages. So, like I said, the redesigned roadmap, this is not, this does take a while, especially with the level of public engagement that we're doing, and stakeholder engagement, elected officials, all that sort of thing. So right now we are, like I said, we're wrapping up phase 1, which is really setting those planning foundations, understanding existing conditions, understanding where people are trying to travel, whether they're on board the bus or whether they're driving, walking, taking other forms of transportation. So that's wrapping up now. We will start to design some networks, and we'll be back in the spring looking for feedback and your input on that. And then again we'll take all that information that we get, refine, and come back in the late summer, early fall for that final round for the network that will roll into the budget. So how you can get involved, and like I said, there's e-newsletter. It's WMATA.com/betterbus. There's an e-newsletter, and then there's social media posts and that sort of thing. And then once we get back to the next survey, that will be through that website as well. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to turn it over to Raka. She can talk through the bus priority, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Shall I go first? Okay. Great. So, good evening. I'm Raka Chaudhary, also a wannabe ACT member and a new resident of Silver Spring. So I will be joining them pretty soon. Thank you. So I'll talk a little bit about the priority lanes and signals part of Better Bus, which, the bus network is being redesigned, but our roadways are not going away. Georgia Avenue is still Georgia Avenue. We will still have buses on Georgia Avenue. So that holds for 16th Street, 14th Street, Benning Road. All of those are still our primary arterials. We'll continue to have buses on them. And we want to make our buses a little more efficient than they have been lately. So over the last 10 years or so, our bus speeds have been declining. There's Uber, Lyft, curbside activities are increasing, and our buses are slowing down. So so congestion really is what slows our speeds down for the most part. But then there's traffic signals, and a bus gets stuck at every signal, or there are bus stops that are placed really close together, just one after another. A new request comes in, so we add a bus stop, then another request comes in at the next block, so the bus is stuck at an intersection, then the stop, then the next intersection, and so it's just a little bit of a mess right now, and all of that is stuff that we are working on and fixing. But for each of these, there's a different tool in our toolkit of bus priority treatments. And so for congestion, we have dedicated bus lanes. But bus lanes are also really need to be enforced. So for that, we are also working on some automated violation detection, right now only with DC, but eventually, hopefully, with the new governor in Maryland as well. For signal delays, we have transit signal priority and queue jumps. And that's something that's transit signal priority is really interesting. It's one of our oldest programs. We have about 250 intersections in the region, none in Montgomery County yet, but we will be working with Montgomery County. I think Colesville is our first corridor that we're looking at. And so that helps with speeding buses up at intersections. And at bus stops, we have opportunities to allow all-door boarding. So people are not all stuck behind the one person who's adding fare at that front door, and everyone else can start boarding from the rear door, tap their cards. It's not free boarding. Tap their cards and board at the rear door. And then there are other design features like floating bus stops or bus islands and stop consolidation.
Excuse me, would you define floating bus stop, please?
Yeah, so they are, floating bus stops are like the one you see on Wayne. It's the bus stop that's like an island and the bike lane goes behind it. And it stops, it prevents the bus-bike conflict, but it also allows the bus to stop in its travel lane and not have to merge in and out of traffic. So it saves time with that.
So is that like it used to be with the streetcars where there was a platform in the street?
A little bit,
So
yeah.
the transit vehicle didn't have to change lanes to service the stop?
That's right.
I see.
Yeah. So today I'll talk just a little bit about the bus lanes because we have a project in Montgomery County. We are working on a tactical bus lane project in partnership with MDOT-SHA and Montgomery County. We are doing, because we don't own the roadway and the right-of-way and we can't really build anything, we are doing the final design and we are doing all the coordination with the county, with SHA, to get it to final buildable implementation plans. But it's not anything that needs construction. These are tactical bus lanes. They're quick build. It's a quick build project. So it's basically we'll do quick build using red paint and signs. There'll be no construction. Bus riders, it allows us to build it within 6 months to 2 years. Typically, that's how quickly tactical bus lanes happen. 16th Street, for instance, took over 10 years. H&I happened in 6 months. So that's kind of the speed at which we want to build bus lanes around the region. And the demonstration projects can be modified and improved easily. So for instance, on H&I, when DC implemented the H&I bus lanes, they found that the buses were slowing down at intersections because there were such high right-turning general purpose traffic volumes. So they added a second lane, and it's amazing that the traffic engineers even allowed them to do that. These are 2 out of 4 travel lanes, 2 that are repurposed for buses. It's huge. Like the district traffic engineers, for anyone to agree to do that, it's a big deal. So really fun, but it helps you showcase the problems in real life and not just through modeling, because it's hard to wrap your head around future models, and they never really, I don't believe they pan out. But that's editorializing. Yeah, and then it helps jumpstart more projects. It's like you get one, as soon as you get that first one in, it helps you to ease the process and get a number of them happen quickly. So it's interesting because even with MDOT-SHA, they weren't really eager to do this. It was all our idea. But once we started working with them, they actually are very supportive of the project now. And it's because they want to move forward as well and move their projects quickly, which, you know, in DOT world, it's a big step forward. So we're pretty excited about just that aspect of it. So we're looking at Georgia Avenue. There's about over here between Wayne and 16th Street, and there are about 1,600 riders using the buses on this corridor. About 12 buses per hour on average, but a lot more actually between Wayne and Colesville. And then this project is also identified in the county's transit corridors master plan. So we're trying to help move this forward quickly. These are the extents, 16 to Wayne, and it's really repurposing the curb lane, painting it red and turning it into a bus lane. There are two options that we are looking at for the bus lanes. We're looking at peak period both directions and peak period in the peak direction. So in the morning coming south, in the evening going north. And so those are the two options we're looking at. I think we are waiting for some comments maybe by the end of this week. I'm not really sure. I think it's this week. And then we'll decide how to progress in discussion with the county. So the county will have to make that decision because they will also be the ones enforcing. So, so we do need them to help us make that decision. We are advocating for peak period both directions, but either way, we will use the demonstration to decide what happens going forward. And then this is the project schedule. We began design in the summer of 22, so earlier this summer. We had a public session on November 1st. We think early summer 23 will come out for some pre-construction outreach because we're hoping for start in the summer of 2023. Montgomery County is very eager to get this going even faster, but I think we are working our way through some
It's not against
reviews.
the rules.
Yeah, I think it's just reviews are long, review periods are long. And then once the bus lanes open in summer, fall 2023, we'll observe for about 6 months. It takes about 6 months for people's behaviors to change because we will find, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people parking in the bus lane, but things will change over time. It takes a little time for people to adjust to it. And at that point, we'll do a performance evaluation. We'll see what needs to change, what needs to be improved, and then the county will make the decision about, I think the county and SHA, it's SHA owned, but the county is very heavily invested in it. And then they'll make the decision about what to do with it. I have links to the project website here, and there's also concept plans that are uploaded on the website, which is the second link, so feel free to go take a look, and that's really all that I have. Thank you, Ben.